Hey there, and welcome to the Mugcast, a cozy listen to pair with your coffee. I'm Hugging a Mug, a writer on Medium, and I cover everything from travel and study abroad to music, psychology, and feminism. Every week, I read one of my stories aloud with some reflections and further insights. So grab your mug, settle in, and let's get into today's piece. For today's first episode, I decided to read my most viewed article simply because this article has been viewed by about 3,000 people now, but only around half of those have actually been able to read the whole article because there's a paywall on Medium for this article. And so today, I just wanted to read the whole piece to you so you can get free access to the whole article. The title is Sabrina Carpenter and Fifth Wave Feminism, The Wake of a New Era. To summarize this piece, it is basically an article intersecting Sabrina and her branding and how she writes her songs in a very clever way with feminist theory. And basically, this article is proposing that Sabrina Carpenter is one of a couple of examples that show that a new wave of feminism, a new idea of how to be a woman, a new definition of femininity and females is coming around. For this article, I published it on October 5th, 2024, so last year in October, and it was my first really big article. I'm really proud of the writing because it went through a very long process of editing. I had written this article about a month before it came out. I wanted to use this article to apply to different publications on Medium. And these were all publications centered around feminism. Because I love reading these publications, I applied with this article. In its unpublished version, I had a really interesting incident where a bigger publisher rejected me. Another publisher decided that they just wouldn't read my piece at all. It was really sad for me because I didn't have many followers and I was just a very small beginner writer. It just felt to me like that fact mitigated my success with this article because I really felt like I was onto something. Then I just self-published this article and Medium decided to boost it. And suddenly a lot of people were seeing it and a lot of people liked it and gave me positive comments. Even managed to meet a really kind publisher through publishing this article. He found me and then reached out to me and asked me whether I wanted to write for his publication. So the moral of the story, I guess, is this article now is one of my favorites because it has a big story behind it, because it really shows how sometimes you put a lot of effort into something simply because of the circumstances, you cannot make it. Once you do push through, sometimes luck will find you. And so this is really an article that is very close to my heart, that I've been crafting for a long time, that I'm very proud of, something that really opened the door for me to keep writing on Medium. And if you needed something to encourage you to start your own journey of either writing or playing music or whatever it may be, this is the story to encourage you. Without further ado, I'm going to start reading the article. Sabrina Carpenter and Fifth Wave Feminism, The Wake of a New Era. This is why the rise of Sabrina Carpenter and Short and Sweet is a testament to new feminist ideals and the challenges women face today. I will say, as a preface before I get into the article, I would never write such a long subtitle again now. That is the first disclaimer. And the second disclaimer is that though this article is kind of a little bit of an older one, I think it still applies. And I think actually it applies even more than back then, because then Short and Sweet had just come out in the summer and Espresso. But I think now with Sabrina coming out with her new album and her having done her Short and Sweet tour across the US and also in Europe, I've really seen that these things that I've stated in the article in October are really true. The world of female singers has a new heroine, and my gym playlist has some much needed updates. Sabrina Carpenter is everywhere. No matter if it's on social media, large-scale publicity events, or as a background jingle in the supermarket while you buy fresh veggies. Many sources online agree, however, that her success is not a coincidence at all, but rather based on a long history of working herself up. As a matter of fact, though I didn't realize it until Espresso dropped, I had listened to Sabrina before. Her song, Emails I Can't Send, ended up in my favorite playlist about a year ago, but that was a mere coincidence. And long before that, she was not granted the exposure she deserved. If you take a closer look at her discography on Spotify, you will notice that she has been actively releasing songs on her own since 2014. Additionally, she was an actress on Disney Channel. But there are two main reasons why she never landed on the right side of the internet before. And this is where we get into the branding behind Sabrina Carpenter. The brand around Sabrina Carpenter and espresso. The first is the most talked about and obvious one. She has taken some time to define her style, both in aesthetic and songwriting. While during the time, she definitely also built her character and the unbotheredness she is known for on stage, her image is definitely her biggest asset. The types of clothes Sabrina Carpenter is wearing are somewhat of a mixture of a Barbie doll, reminiscence of the 50s in the US, and self-aware bad bitch. One clear sign of a unique style in today's society is when you can find YouTube tutorials, educating young minds on how to dress like her. And Sabrina has made a lot of those surface. From the high heels to make her a little taller, to the short skirts, strong colors, gold blonde hair, and alluring makeup, what Sabrina wears is on brand. Simultaneously, in the cuteness of her aesthetic, there's always a breeze of cheekiness and sexiness. Especially her actions speak to her image of the no fucks given girl, who can wear what she likes without exception and say what is on her mind eloquently. The lyrics and melodies of her songs reflect the same sense of natural confidence and superiority. And while she does have lyrics where she clearly bashes men, it seems a little sneakier, more refined, and a good way of pointing out their mistakes. Rather than simply saying, men are trash, she often tells them what to do in a more gracious way. Here are some examples from her lyrics. You're thinking about me every night, oh, isn't that sweet? I guess so. Please don't prove them right. Please don't bring me to tears when I just did my makeup so nice. What a surprise, your phone just died. Your car drove itself from LA to her thighs, from coincidence. You don't have to lie to girls. If they like you, they'll just lie to themselves. Like you, they'll just lie to themselves. From Lie to Girls. I could keep going on with lines like this for another 10 pages, and I would still be marveling at the way she writes her songs. Her wording has an inner cheekiness without shaming someone directly, so you cannot be mad, but rather you find yourself giggling. At the same time, they're definitely the words of an empowered woman who is self-aware and doesn't give a flying shit about what others think, especially men. Yet, she's not bashing them openly. It's not pointing at it with a finger, but rather implying that there is a problem in a way that sometimes feels like she's actually helping them out of their own pity. She sounds like a strong woman with a remaining ability to fall deeply for men and empathize with them. Basically, she's a woman like any other. The argument I wanted to make in this part of the article was her way of speaking is very cheeky, and obviously she uses swear words, and obviously she's even saying about herself that she sometimes sounds a little bit very sexy, but for the most part, she doesn't straight out bash men. I love how she uses metaphors is basically what I'm trying to say. Now for the more intriguing part. What does Sabrina Carpenter's career advancement have to do with feminism? And what even is fifth wave feminism? For a long time now, I've been bombarded with content on female energy on YouTube. I'm being presented with the image of young, self-declared witches laying out tarot cards, and generally, a bubble of more femininity seems to have burst in my feed. Depending on how well you have conditioned your algorithm, this might be happening to you too. Actually, I later on found out that this wave had started somewhere around 2023, 2024, and that there actually was like a huge surge in YouTube videos in the domain of female energy and witchcraft, and obviously tarot card readings are a big thing now. This development, however, does not come out of nowhere. In the history of feminism, there have been several waves of development, commonly referred to as waves of feminism. The last one, the fourth wave, is supposed to have surged around the year 2012, when the #MeToo and many cases of abuse surfaced, as well as the He for She campaign by Emma Watson, who held a highly influential speech in front of the UN Assembly on quote-unquote new feminism. The argument back then was hold men accountable for their actions, but also call them to action. A united sense of feminism, led by both men and women, as well as other members of the LGBTQ+ community, was the goal. Since then, progress has been made, but the debate has also slowly left our conscious awareness. Now, some people argue that a new wave, the fifth one, is on its rise. Testaments to this idea can be found not only in the surge of the term male and female energy and old female wisdom, like witchcraft and tarot, but also in statistics. Scientists have shown that more women than men go to and graduate from university in North America and Europe, while similarly, men seem to have fallen into general disgrace. Some observers, like Richard Reeves, the author of Boys and Men, even argues that we need to pay attention to also strengthening our guys enough. While there are arguments to be made in favor of this, the general gender pay gap has been closing more slowly recently, and men are still prevalent in leading positions, not to mention global events in Africa and Arabian countries that neglect the rights of women completely. So there is definitely still a need for female empowerment. Oh yeah, there is. Now, what does this have to do with Sabrina? She encapsulates what modern content creators teach young women. Videos titled How to Tap into Your Inner Feminine or How to Activate Your Feminine Energy are drawing huge attention, and Carpenter simply impersonates that exact thing these women are preaching. She can be strong and fierce, with a tongue as sharp as a knife, and yet wear high heels. She's a successful artist and talented singer, and yet doesn't lure after male attention. She has a boyfriend, not anymore, and yet can be independent. In a nutshell, she can be the best of both worlds. Don't we love a little bit of Hannah Montana every now and then? A feminine female is wearing a short pink dress, and everyone is looking up to her as a fierce woman. This is something that the fourth wave of feminism was working towards. They stated that a woman in a short skirt is not asking for sexual interactions, but she might just want to feel nice wearing a cute outfit. And also wearing pink doesn't make you less credible. If all of this has already been accomplished, what is the challenge of fifth wave feminism? Every wave, of course, has its issues, and since we have clearly reached a point where the last wave's issues are somewhat being overwritten with new information, there are new issues on the rise. One that I've already mentioned is the current fragility of the male image, which is giving rise to many issues in social life. It has ignited toxic masculinity around quote-unquote real men on social media, who teach the wounded souls of young men to hate back in the form of misogynism. As Emma Watson already addressed in her speech, men must be part of the dialogue to support equality. The integration of genders does not focus on spanning as many voices as possible this time. This was the case for the last wave, when including LGBTQ+ populations was essential. Now, specifically heterosexual males are the ones to seem to have a new challenge. Yet, not losing sight of the fact that female suppression is still around and the inequality is far from being solved is essential. This new wave seems to be in a need to speak up without screaming, but defending and extending a dialogue. Similarly, this view is obviously very Western focused. The majority of women in this world still live under horrendous conditions, which should now receive more emphasis. Women supporting women should be a new endeavor. The goal is to stand our ground, which others before have fought for so hard to attain, and to reach our hands to those who are still drowning. What does all of this have to do with you? And for you who is reading this article, or, well, in this case, being read the article, I think it is time to look back and learn. With all the privilege we have now, we should not forget to inquire about the way they came about and challenge our mindset cleverly. Yes, we all know the word feminism, but do you really know what it means? It is time to show up in cute 50s dresses like Sabrina or whatever you like, and then be very consciously aware of the choices you're making and the messages you're sending. That I think is a very interesting sentence because I recently talked to a friend who doesn't care about how she looks and how she dresses, and also that in itself sends a message. I think that women are just more aware of their style choices, and that ability to be aware of how they look is a tool. That is almost like a weapon. Women know how to portray themselves. And though it unfortunately came about through the wrong means, that doesn't mean that we can't use this as a weapon to guard ourselves, or as basically a means to generate whatever attention, income we are seeking. In my eyes, the danger is to lean back and call it quits, just because we've come a long way. It's like running a marathon with the goal ahead, but you stop a mile before the finish line. The issues of the founding mothers of feminism are not yet solved, but we have to recognize that feminism globally has become more diverse and more multifaceted. So let's keep listening to strong women like Sabrina Carpenter, Taylor Swift, Billie Eilish, and Miley Cyrus, who, by the way, recently came out with a new album. They are amplifiers of a new idea of feminism that is just starting to build up, and I can't wait to see where this is taking us. So much for the article. Thank you so much for listening. A new definition of femininity and females is coming around. And I definitely think I feel that. I, for instance, have been following Espen over through her journey from having her third child to divorce and now through her dating journey. And I think it's so enlightening. It definitely is also an artifact of YouTube and how YouTubers are now reaching a certain age where they're going into a new stage in life. It feels like I've been following these girls that are are just a bit older than me for years and years now, and I've seen them get married, I've seen them have kids, and now I'm seeing them get divorced, and I'm seeing them remarry, or I'm seeing them date, and I've seen them fall in love with girls, I've seen them just living their life and finding alternative paths. And I think that is a big thing in fifth wave feminism now, is to just multiply the options that women have. We're not just very female or acting like tomboyish. There's so many different ways to go, and it's not a either or, it's really a mixture of the two. We should have always been able to dress pink and still be feel incredible. But the fact is that if you go to a business meeting and you turn up in a pink dress, you will not feel as credible, right? That is still the case. And I know that we've come a long way from where the founding fathers or founding mothers of feminism started, but that doesn't mean we've reached the goal, because the gender pay gap isn't closed, and there still is a difference between men and women, and catcalls happen every day, femicides happen. It's just not equal, still not. So the point of this article was to not only shed light on Sabrina Carpenter and why she's a great feminist idol, and a great singer, by the way, but specifically to emphasize that the struggle for females for equality is not over, and we're just entering a new stage. And it also was an article that I wanted to put out because I was planning another article about the waves of feminism and how they align with vocal theory. My background is in speech therapy, so I've had quite a lot of education in how the voice works anatomically, and I've had quite a lot of singing training as well. So from this education, I just know a bit about vocal use and the anatomy of the voice, and how singing is working on a very basic level, and how tones and voices affect us. So I found this very interesting correlation between how women in pop culture are singing and how this kind of translates to the waves of feminism that we've seen in history. This is another article though. This is one that I also want to read in one of the following episodes. Thanks for granting me access to your ears on the Mugcast. You can read more of my work on Medium at @huginamug, or follow me on Instagram via the handle hugin.amug for cozy content and updates. I also have a publication called Wonder Woman, spelled with an A, where I try to post articles about travel and study abroad. Don't forget to follow the podcast and share it with fellow coffee lovers, and tell me which article I should read next in the comments, either below the podcast or on my Medium. I hope you had a nice cappuccino with this article, and I send a warm hug from my mug to yours. Bye bye!